thirsty. He grinned as he stumbled through the bar. Well, he said, give me some more love, give me some love, give it all. His breath really said it all. His car was parked behind the back door. Tuxedo black, El Camino, 1969. Well, he said, give me some more love, give me some love, give it all. His filthy fingers said it all. Yeah. Give it all. Well, he said, give me some more love, give me some love, give it all. His lazy eyes said it all. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Well, he said, give me some more love, give me some love, give it all. Give me some more love, give me some love, give it all. He said, give me some more love, give me some love, give it all. Give me some more love, give me some love, give it all. All right, give it to me. Yeah. All right, come on, come on, come on, come on. Yeah, come on, come on, come on, come on. Well, he said, give me some love, give me some love, give it all. Give me some love, give me some love, give it all. Give me some love, give me some love, give it all. Give me some love, give me some love, give it all. Baby, give me some love, well, na 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 na.
This is what I want now. No, I won't settle for anything else. I can't keep pretending. It's not getting to me. It's never ending. Can't give you what you need. Oh no, no. You're misbehaving. Yeah, it's getting to me. It's never ending. You can give anything, so you can go, go, go. Go, 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 go. Yeah, so I can focus. I just need to focus on myself. Oh, you better go, go, go. Go, 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 go. Yeah, so I can focus. I just need to focus on myself.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
Good morning. It is Wednesday, September 29th, and I want to turn our attention to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm sure you're familiar with the story of what happened in 1921 when a very, very wealthy Black neighborhood was ravished and destroyed completely, all because of a misunderstanding and false accusations of a Black man claiming that he harmed a white woman. And we've heard this story so many times when we research and look in the history of this nation. But in Tulsa, what was so unique is the Black economy that was so developed and that was thriving. In fact, some historians say $200 million in today's worth was taken from that community. And I had the opportunity to go to Tulsa for the centennial, the 100-year anniversary earlier this year. And the survivors of the Tulsa massacre are still fighting for reparations. They're still fighting to be compensated for their homes that were destroyed. 1,200 homes were destroyed. They're still fighting for compensation for their businesses that were destroyed. And yesterday, there was a court hearing, where the survivors of that massacre went in and asked a judge to consider the evidence that they were able to bring forth that would allow them to file reparations against the city of Tulsa. I want you guys to take a look at the latest coverage.
Civil and human rights lawyers will fight to keep a landmark lawsuit alive in court.
Hey, good morning, guys. A lawsuit filed by a group of Oklahomans is seeking reparations for the devastation caused by the 1921 Tulsa race massacre. Last night, a rally was held in support of that lawsuit. Attorneys for the plaintiffs will appear in court to defend motions to dismiss the case. Solomon Simmons has been critical of Tulsa Mayor G.T. Bynum for not supporting reparations in the past. The city does not comment on ongoing litigation. The lawsuit calls for monetary compensation and admission for the defendants that they created a public nuisance.
Asking that the judge allows us to move forward in discovery. That's first and foremost. We're asking for a declaration that this indeed is a public nuisance. We're asking for the judge to abate, which means to fix. So we're asking her to allow us to prove our case, show the evidence.
In a statement, the Justice for Greenwood Foundation said when no legal action is taken against acts of racial terror, that gives permission for it to happen again. Now, today's hearing is scheduled for 10 a.m. this morning. That's when they'll decide whether to move forward with the lawsuit or dismiss it altogether.
Black Wall Street, was about 35 blocks. 35 city blocks full of Black homes, Black businesses. It's now reduced to about a 1 or 2 block radius. And it is actually split by a highway. You know, when I went to Tulsa, it was shortly after the Derek Chauvin trial and the protest for Dante Wright, which was a very, very challenging time. And for some reason, I thought the centennial of the Tulsa race massacre was going to connect me with people who were advocates for Black economics. Somehow I thought that going to Tulsa was going to recharge me and revitalize me. In fact, I left infuriated because of the gentrification that has happened in the historic Greenwood district, because the fact that there were all of these events that were planned around the centennial, yet and still the survivors are still seeking reparations. The fact that you can charge for an event to celebrate the centennial of the Tulsa massacre, but none of the proceeds are going to the survivors. It felt very exploitative. And when you see the elders here in this coverage, these are elders who have dedicated their entire lives to fighting for reparations for the residents, the Black residents of Tulsa. And so, as we talk about the move for racial justice, we also must talk about the move for economic justice. Tulsa is just one example. It's probably the most well-known example. But these massacres happened across our country, in Detroit, in Chicago, and so many other cities. And so we can't stand here today, 100 years later, and say that we're changed if we can't unify on this history. Some historians have counted up to 300 people being killed on that 1921 day. And so if we know that not only was this a horrific act against a prominent, wealthy Black community, but we also know the cover-up that happened to ensure that those people were not able to be to rebuild, or their descendants were not able to be compensated for the destruction that they were plagued with. The fact that for many, many decades, this history was known as a race riot. It was classified as a race riot, so that the descendants and the survivors couldn't go to insurance brokers and be compensated for what happened. There is a line in most insurance policies that prohibit compensation in a riot. And so it was a loophole. But we know that that's not what it was. And to hear the stories, too, to get closer to this history, I don't know, for those of you watching, how closely you've gotten to the history of what happened in Tulsa, but there were a few businesses that really stood out. There was one prominent hotel owner, Black hotel owner, whose hotel was destroyed, and he actually ended up being arrested, that some predicted could have catapulted with his company, a hotel like the Hyatt, or, any of these hotels that we see, the chain hotels that we see everywhere, the Holiday Inn, the Marriott, right? Because that was the type of service that he provided at his hotel. And that was also the business savvy that he had. So when we look at Tulsa, knowing that they're still fighting for justice, there are ways to support. If you know people in Oklahoma, reach out and see what you can do. But we're going to follow this hearing. The hearing was yesterday, and now the judge is deliberating on what he's going to decide to do. But this potentially could open up the door for residents to be able to sue the city for reparations, which would be a huge step forward for economic justice for those who were affected. I'm going to turn now to another story that is affecting anybody who is deciding to travel during this pandemic. If you've been on a flight recently, a lot of passengers are tense, and some are frustrated about having to wear their masks, which is basically creating a new problem that we didn't have 10 or 20 years ago. Take a look at this.
The FAA says passenger behavior investigations are reaching record levels. Last year, 183 passenger investigations were initiated. So far this year, 789 investigations have been launched. Today, a congressional hearing with airline employees and aviation experts detailed the scope of the problem.
The FAA, they are trying to stop this. They're trying to get harsher punishments. In some cases, means fines of up to $45,000, depending on what you do. Fists flying.
Why am I being arrested?
Passengers detained.
Sit down, please. Go get him. Go get him.
Flight attendants harassed.
Aviation workers have to deal with everything from vulgar language, including racial epithets, to punching, kicking, biting, shoving, and spitting. It is disgusting.
The FAA and Airports Council International say there isn't one specific reason for the increase in air rage, but acknowledge COVID has a lot to do with it. Of the nearly 4,400 reports of unruly passenger behavior, about 3,200 were related to airlines' mask mandates.
I've lost count the times I've been insulted or threatened on a flight.
Flight attendant Teddy Andrews described one experience asking a passenger to keep his mask on.
He said, N-word, I don't have to listen to a damn thing you say. This is a free country.
The zero tolerance and the publicized fines has an impact, but we need more prosecutions.
I just spoke about an hour ago with Congressman Cahaley from Hawaii. He says that while he was actually in the hearing today discussing this issue, one of his staffers was in the air and their flight had to be diverted back to Honolulu because a passenger punched a flight attendant on that flight.
So I'm getting ready to travel to Hawaii, and I sure hope that we don't have an experience like that on our flight. But this is becoming a common occurrence on flights. People refusing to wear their masks, being rude, being disrespectful, being simply racist. And if you caught the one gentleman there who said, we simply need more prosecution. And so when you have individuals getting on these flights, knowing that they're not going to be prosecuted, also knowing that if you're midair, who is the authority while you're in flight? Who is going to arrest you right then and there? And so if this doesn't get under control, we will begin to see some type of law enforcement officer on these flights in order to mitigate the violence that's happening, and to have someone on flight that can mitigate these instances. But with that, then also comes a whole slew of other issues, especially when we haven't even figured out how to hold officers accountable for using fatal force on ground. So I hope we don't have to get to that point, but I don't know what other choice airlines are left with, because flight attendants are not trained or equipped to break up brawls or to detain someone. And so it is extremely unfortunate when you juxtapose this story with Tulsa and the pursuit of justice. It just continuously reminds us that our country still has such a long way to go. The last thing I'll add here as I reflect on my time in Tulsa, if you ever go there, and I encourage you to go there, go to the Greenwood District. And when you walk downtown, you'll see bricks on the ground that have the names of all of the businesses that were destroyed. And it was so powerful to read those names. And I learned, this is something that's not widely known, that there was a small rebuild that happened. And then the city of Tulsa used eminent domain to destroy the businesses that rebuilt so that they could build the highway. So definitely go to Tulsa. I'm going to turn to Ben now. He has an important interview he wants you to take a look at.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
We regularly talk about all of the different components that go into what we are considering to be a pan-reactionary movement. That simply means that there are people across the globe who are coming against modernity itself, against marginalized people, against progress. Alexander Reid Ross is an adjunct professor at Portland State University. He is also a fellow at the Center for the Analysis of the Radical Right in the UK, and author of the book Against the Fascist Creep. And he's here to join us today to discuss someone in particular as it pertains to this topic, Steve Bannon, and all that we see happening across this country with regard to COVID-19. Alexander, how are you today? Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm doing great, Benjamin. Thank you for having me.
The pleasure is ours. We've talked extensively about Steve Bannon, who was, or probably still considered to be, Donald Trump's henchman, but almost like Dick Cheney was to George W. Bush. I think, would you agree, it's safe to say that Steve Bannon is more of the Machiavellian hand behind what we see happening? That was, everyone gave credit to Donald Trump, but would you agree that Steve Bannon is the puppet behind a lot of the stuff we're seeing right now? Or the puppet master, rather.
The Muppet. He's definitely a Muppet. I think he is responsible for all the grassroots efforts you see with the Republican Party today. He is responsible as well for bringing back the faction of Americanism that had kind of been tamped down since the Nixon administration. And he's really been able to do that through the same kind of tradition, going back to Goldwater and before that, of just populist kind of movement building, and so there's a mix with Bannon of an authentic grassroots experience that has been kind of carried over from the Tea Party, and a complete farce of astroturfed, like you said, kind of like puppet marionette kind of playing.
I think the thing that most people listening or watching would recognize immediately is what we see happening at school boards all across the country. We see groups of people who are organized. They have the same talking points, whether they are in Kentucky or whether they're in Florida. We see they come out saying the same sorts of things. And I heard this. There's a clip of Steve Bannon and a tweet, for that matter, where he's basically saying this is intentional. We're organizing this. Talk about this what looks like it's grassroots, but it is actually just it's really coordinated from a top down level. And Steve Bannon is a core player in that.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot going on at the same time. So he's helping to spearhead this kind of media attack, and he's constantly on his podcast, he's constantly bringing people in from the white nationalist movement, anti-immigrant movement. And they're big fans of like tokenizing people in order to kind of pretend that their politics are more harmless than they actually are. And then at the same time, there are sort of cells in different cities throughout the country, which come out and they're fully capable of bringing a different sign to each protest. So when it seems like there's a movement for this one kind of insurgency happening at one given time, it's pretty general, and that same group of people you'll see out the next month, targeting a completely different issue or group of people, right? So that gives the impression that you're seeing this real kind of the popular sentiment boiling over, when in fact it's just a highly mobilized fraction of the country.
Right. The sensation that it's a huge movement. Why? Help us to understand why COVID-19, why the anti-mask movement, why the anti-vax, why is there that overlap with conservative ideologies, particularly as it pertains to the organizers, Steve Bannon and Trump? It's like there's a perfect marriage between conservatism and COVID-19. Why that intersection?
I mean, they used to call it the cordon sanitaire, right? This line that you wouldn't break because otherwise, it would be this kind of infection of global politics. And Bannon is definitely outside of that. I think that what he is doing and what the Republicans in general are doing right now, basically just fostering this kind of militant opposition to, the federal government. It kind of harkens back to what conspiracy theorists have been doing on the far right for a long, long time, right? You have the same kind of theories that just sort of mutate and metamorphosize to incorporate new things going on. So there used to be this Agenda 21 that was the UN is going to depopulate the West by sending like Crips and Bloods house to house to disarm, honest patriots and then send them to FEMA camps in order to build a kind of eco paradise in the US West, right? So this is like an old school conspiracy theorist from like the 90s that really merges a lot of different, anxieties of the sort of white American who feels left behind or whatever trope. And today that's just sort of mutated to add the anti-vax stuff where, the vaccines have microchips in them that are going to be sent through a kind of 5G transmitter into receptors in your brain, and that will control you and keep you tame. And then, that's the extreme version. And then the other side of that is this sort of libertarian, like, this is a beta test for total liberal totalitarian domination over everyday life. So that's kind of where it is. It's like in the far right of the conservative movement, which has, there used to be a wall there, and that's just been completely breached. And now we have what we have.
Tell me about you gave it a specific name and I didn't catch it. What is the name of that wall that should not be breached, else we fall into the abyss of conspiracy theory?
The cordon sanitaire. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm fascinated by that concept. I heard another commentator say it like this: you can't peddle conspiracies because they get out of control. It's kind of a simple rule of thumb that has been completely ignored because there's power behind it. I want to expand this beyond the United States to the global pan-reactionary movement. And there's a lot of words, a lot of syllables, but there seems to be a consensus building around, well, let me choose my words a little bit better. Not a consensus, but a faux consensus and a confederation, if you would, of right-wing ideologues across the globe. Regardless of what nation, we're finding those type of reactionaries who really want to push back against progress, progressing of rights for marginalized people. Help us to understand what's happening in the United States of America in context of what you're seeing happening around the globe.
Yeah, I think, a lot of people sort of bring it back to Brexit and the kind of metamorphosis of the left-wing populists movement into a kind of left-right national populist movement that sought a complete sort of separation from international liberalism and a kind of populist synthesis of some social justice sort of ideas, maybe economic protectionism in that kind of way, with a kind of like a hard line conspiracy theory sort of base and really core. And so you get a lot of anti-Semitism in there, and you have all kinds of problems with it. But Trump sort of developed in his phenomenon with Bannon in combination with Farage and UKIP and Brexit in England. And then you had Bolsonaro and Modi, and really kind of like like you said, like a transnational sort of system of the far right in power. And I think that really has helped seed the fertile soil for the kind of eruption of sort of baseless insurgency, like an insurgency that doesn't come out of material conditions, but instead just sort of like springs from the imaginations of highly disturbed individuals who are completely alienated from most of society, and yet find the ability to navigate their way into a sense of belonging with one another, which can be quite convincing, and like you said, can cascade.
And it's been cascading. I heard you mention President Bolsonaro of Brazil, and you mentioned, I believe, Prime Minister Modi. And we saw in Brazil this week, we saw something that was analogous to January 6th. They had their own version of January 6th in Brazil. And the irony of it is it's almost identical in the sense that the people who were trying to breach the facilities there in Brazil this week, they were supporters of the person that's in power. So help us to understand this fascinating part where the people who are pretending to be the most aggrieved are literally the people who have been the beneficiaries of this system the most, as evidenced by January 6th. The people marching up this or storming the gates of their empire, well, that is their own empire. Help us understand why they are so aggrieved when they are in power.
So I think I saw recently. I'm doing a lot of research into the history of post-war fascism, and there's one sentiment that was expressed by Giorgio Almirante from the Italian social movement, which was the Italian fascist movement after 1945, and his sentiment was that self-victimization is like a narrative strategy, but really what we need is like hardcore power politics, right? And that's part of it, right? It's that there's this theory in the far right that is called the state of exception, that you have to suspend all laws in order to retain power as the singular like sovereign, right? And so this is the idea of like an insurgency from the state or a revolution from the top down, right? These kinds of ideas that in order to maintain power, a dictator actually has to live in a system kind of constant revolution, but it's a revolution that destabilizes any ability for people to organically organize and substitutes the organic organization of the people with bureaucratic authoritarian assemblages directly tied to and controlled by the state, but that have the auspices of the sovereignty of the people.
Like the Tea Party. Like
right. No, that's what we're talking about, right? That's exactly what we're talking about.
Alexander Reid Ross, how can people get a copy of your book?
Oh, you could go to akpress.org, publisher. It's anywhere on Amazon or whatever. Against the Fascist Creep. Yeah, AK is great though. They're
I heard your hesitation in your voice when you said Amazon, but
I know
we understand the dilemma.
I understand.
My book is on Amazon too. That's why I don't even promote it anymore. But I definitely want people to go get this book because I think we need to understand in the context of our present moment that we're not just fighting against quote unquote conservatism. We're fighting against a virulent strain of fascism that has infected almost every part of this country. Alexander Reid Ross, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, sir.
The pleasure is ours.
Prescription drug pricing points to corporate
Freedom of the press is about your right to know.
and Clark sheer athleticism.
It's about your right to be informed. Today, there are real threats to press freedom
Reaching residential areas.
and your right to know about the world around us. We must protect our right to know, no matter what kind of news is important to you. Before it's too late. Understand the threats. ProtectPressFreedom.org.
Part of it too, I know initially I felt guilty. I felt real guilty. Just like, what could I have done better? How could I have known? What could I have done here, there, or the other? I think part of me just healing was just realizing like, really, if I knew better, I would have done better. We were 28 and we had just, we were going out to celebrate a friend's birthday. Went out kind of a regular night outside of just some weird vibes. He had got pulled over for a D-dub on the way home. Booked, let go under his own recognizance. And then shortly thereafter jumped off the Stone Arch Bridge.
I tried to commit suicide 3 times. I just felt like nobody really understood. The last time that I tried to commit suicide, I split my arm open and I got like 38 stitches or something. I tried to cover it up, but maybe that was just a sign that I don't need to cover it up, like I need to be reminded. I just look at my arm and be like, I remember that day. I remember how my fiance felt when I was doing that. I remember, and I just like, I can't do that again.
Found a lot of solace in being able to, hey, I can just take my daughter to the park. She doesn't really care that I'm hurting. She maybe doesn't even know. But she loves me and she's just here and she's having a blast. So yeah, honestly, it was really that ended up saving me. It gave me purpose, just in that, hey, you can still add value to all types of people with this experience.
There's a reason why we're living, because after I tried to kill myself 3 times and it didn't work, and I'm like, okay, like what then? Like, what am I living for? And then now I figured it out. My firstborn kid, Kai, him being born just made me look at life way different because I just really didn't care about anything like at all until he was born. So that just gave me a reason to like, you know, live because I know that I'm the only person they have. You know, sometimes you have to push yourself. Sometimes you can't wait for other people to come and help you and do all of this. Like, the world don't work that way.
Talk, communicate, share, and even if that's not necessarily with another human being, I think even writing it down, journaling it, working through ideas, because suicide looks like sometimes the quickest solution. It's like things might really suck at a particular given time, but it's not final. Like things being terrible, it's kind of the nature of life at some point or another.
Good morning, people. Y'all know who it is. You know the voice. You know the sound. It's been James Bub Williams, DJ Exclusive. I'm running behind this morning, but I am here nonetheless. So what you want to do is make sure that you stay tuned. We got more coming up next on the Benjamin Dixon Show, y'all. Anoa Changa is filling in. Dwayne, is Anoa ready? All right, let's roll that intro, and I'll see y'all. Won't like it or not. Hey.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am obviously not Benjamin Dixon. My name is Anoa Changa, and I'm filling in from family vacation in Kissimmee. But Ben had internet issues, and the show must go on, so I'm more than happy to step in and chat with you for a little bit this morning. Apologies for the slightly janky setup, but you know how we do. We keep it moving. Speaking of family vacation, I just want to give a shout out to my dad who took me out to Target last night actually to get a ring light for this morning. So hopefully, my face is just a little bit brighter than this bad lighting in the room. But, speaking of dads, the news has been back to back with coverage of Gabby Petito's missing person, now murder case. Something really interesting caught my eye, and it took me a little bit off topic of what we were going to talk about today, but I just wanted to acknowledge something her father had said in a recent interview. He said, I want to ask everyone to help all the people that are missing and need help. It's on all of you, everyone that's in this room, to do that. He pointed at, the various cameras and reporters. And he said, and if you don't do that for other people that are missing, that's a shame, because it's not just Gabby that deserves it. And I just really want to give kudos to her family for, in the middle of their own grief, in the middle of their own search for justice and answers, to even acknowledge the disproportionate coverage. And this is coming in response to the conversation that's happening about missing white women syndrome and the type of coverage that you see when a young white woman or a white woman of any age goes missing, compared to whether it's young Black women. We've seen some recent instances of young Black men that have gone missing as well. Or, there are hundreds and hundreds of missing Indigenous women who have gone missing without the same attention. So I saw that this morning when I was just doing a little brief news reading, and I was like, wow, that was really decent of her dad, like in the middle of their own, struggle and conference, to acknowledge the pain of the other parents that he's probably seen coverage of over the past week. And just thinking about the pain of parents. I know y'all have touched on the R. Kelly stuff somewhat, but I think you have some, B-roll of the trial, and R. Kelly was convicted in a federal court, but Chuck D, apparently, it seems like Chuck D wanted to have a conversation about what's the utility of prison. It didn't really go the way, Mr. Public Enemy thought it would go. And also, folks in response to him raised real questions about, why are you trying to have this conversation today? Why is there not any type of statement or acknowledgement of the dozens of, now grown women, then teenage girls? Some are still teenage girls involved in this case. Why no acknowledgement of their pain and suffering as we immediately rush to, whether or not this poor man will ever get his life back, or whatever the case may be, right? And so there is this very real discussion. A friend of mine, Leslie Mack, who hosts a really dope podcast. If you're interested in like the intersection of Black culture and alternative music, there's the Fish podcast that she co-hosts, which is really cool. You should check it out. But, she had a really good point about, there's the saying from the movie Brown Sugar, like, tell me about the first time you fell in love with hip hop, paraphrasing. And she's just like, for Black women, it seems more and more is like, tell me about when hip hop first broke your heart. Again, paraphrasing the tweet. But I thought that was a really, real commentary when I think about Chuck D's tweet, when I think about Talib Kweli in his tirade breaking down on a young Black woman organizer and writer. There's just been so many instances where we see these people go unchecked and just continue to receive the same love and support and respect from the broader industry and community, regardless of what they do. And here we have R. Kelly, who has open and notoriously abused, engaged, targeted, profiled young women, young girls for decades. I remember being on the south side of Chicago at Kenwood Academy, which is also the high school he went to. One of the high schools that would be one of his trolling grounds, so to speak, when he was not out on tour. And, people would come back from lunch and be like, oh, R. Kelly's at the Pancake House across the street, or R. Kelly's at the McDonald's, whatever, at lunch, during lunch break, talking to, some of the girls and stuff. There were later be news reports about how he would pick people up and talk to people like out during prom season, despite them having dates, right? And so this is something that's been open and notorious, but it points to a bigger issue that we have in our communities and in our families. Unfortunately, I think back to the first time I caught a grown man looking at my own daughter when she was about 12 or 13 years old, probably closer to 13. We're living here in Georgia. And I literally she was walking to the store to grab something real quickly while I stayed in the car with my younger son. And I wanted to jump out the car and beat the living crap out of this man because my child, to me, obviously is a little girl, not someone, but these people don't care, right? But we have a culture that says that if little girls are being looked at, then it's the little girl that is the problem. We have a culture, regardless of whether you're talking about a Weinstein and R. Kelly. Now, we find out more and more accounts of some of, our musical greats from the 50s, 60s. I mean, even going back, folks have documented stuff about Charlie Chaplin, the great actor, right? So we see, there are these history, there are these patterns. And people say, oh, well, in the old days. Oh, this isn't the old days, right? It's 2021. It's capped for that. I don't even think that we can really say that when our grandmothers were becoming mothers at 14, 15, 16, that was, even if it was accepted and tolerated, that was still somehow better for them and their life opportunities. And that's not the standard that we should be carrying into the 21st century anyway. And so I think about the way in which we talk about girls as if they're fast, as if the way they were dressed is the problem. I mean, it's the same conversation we hear in rape cases and sexual assault, sexual harassment. We're talking about older women. But these are issues that are also plaguing younger women and young girls as well. And we don't have real honest conversation. It's not just, we don't need men or we don't need other women, because some of the problem is other women too, right? It's our aunties, our mamas, our grandmamas, big sisters who are also part of the problem, and not one protecting us, listening, and letting us know that it's not okay for this type of attention to be happening and that we're not to blame and we're not at fault. I mean, how many times have you heard little girls being told that they're fast? Or, they need to make sure they put on clothes because Uncle so-and-so's coming around. Or maybe Uncle so-and-so don't need to be coming around. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe somebody in the family need to take a stand and stop having these people in our midst, whether they're a long friend or family, whether it's the pastor down at the church, whether it's the youth summer counselor, whomever the case may be. Maybe we need to be having these real conversations, and not just Black folks, because I have girlfriends of all different backgrounds who all have these types of stories. Whether they happen to them directly or to peers or family members, like we need to be taking a stand and really protecting our kids. And it's not just our girls. We talk about it, mostly in terms of young women and girls. But I mean, our sons, predators exist across the board. We do see it more happening with men and younger girls, but we see it happening with young boys. Who I have a friend that would joke about how fine my son is getting. And I know she's joking, but there was one time I almost grabbed her. I'm like, let me tell you something. He's a little boy. You need to stop. And my son he's 17. He's like 6'2", 6'3". He has a full beard. I don't care. When he opens his mouth, you very clearly know he's a little boy. And you better beware. And it's not about trying to infringe on my kids and their autonomy either. They're very amazing human beings coming into age as adults. But it's about protecting, their space and allowing them to grow and develop without undue influence and pressure from older people who should know better. And so that's just what I was thinking about when I was looking at the Chuck D tweet, and he has some other tweets trying to clear it up and he agrees with some people who are disagreeing with him. But at the same time, this conversation on this day, and there are prison abolitionists, people who support prison abolition who have said things like, I can't support or I can't celebrate a jail sentence. And I definitely understand that. But why I think Chuck D's tweet went so far off the rails in differing in a conversation about the efficacy of the U.S. prison system is that it was grounded in this so-called notion of redemption of folks like Rick James and Ike Turner, right? two people who were in very interesting but also atrocious situations of their own right. Like we don't need to be comparing atrocities type of situation. It's like when people get into an argument about slavery versus the Holocaust. We don't need to do that to make a good point. And so neither Ike Turner nor Rick James are actually good examples of somebody who came out better and was somehow rehabilitated like later in life. There were issues with both persisting across time, but also I would not necessarily compare Ike Turner, despite his atrocious, and I need a new word for the morning, but that seems to stick, atrocious behavior of Tina Turner, among other things, with R. Kelly's, close to approximately 3 decades of trafficking, abuse, predator behavior. I mean, they're not the same thing at all, right? R. Kelly basically was found guilty of operating a criminal enterprise across multiple state lines. So it's very interesting, the lengths that people go to defend. And even though he doesn't think he's defending or he doesn't think he's like coming to the aid, he's solely focusing on what does it matter? Like what can happen to, and then he starts talking about the industry more generally, and it's great. But the issue right now is R. Kelly, is Robert Kelly. Not the broader industry. And the broader industry is most definitely a problem. But so are, whether it's Chuck D or Jay-Z or Nas or so many other people, the Isley Brothers, like so many other people who were co-signing Kelly's staff and people who would actually actively bring young girls on stage and backstage for him. Like there's a whole realm of people who are part of the problem. And so what do we do about it? I was talking with a girlfriend earlier this morning. We were sharing messages because I was just like, girl, I don't know how to feel about this. Like, yay, okay. I'm also not someone who celebrates prison, but at the same time, we do need to talk about if we're going to get rid of prisons, what do we do with people who commit atrocious acts? Like, what happens to them? That is a very real conversation, and I'm definitely open to hearing more people's thoughts about that. But I'm not excited about people going to prison. Is where I am now. I'm not necessarily of the mind that I'm going to say that I don't think he needs to go there, because I honestly don't know what we do with him or someone like him in the current system that we have. And I think that's a very real conundrum and place to be. But I think that we all need to push our minds more and learn more about what are the steps to building alternatives and what does that look like? I mean, when we're talking about conversely, I'm definitely someone who's in favor of when we're looking at the low recidivism rates of our elderly folks and letting, folks who are political prisoners and just the aging prison population, letting them go free. I don't think we should be keeping people locked up, past, certain older ages. There's a lot of contradictions, I think, that some of us hold, and we need to kind of work through that. And it's okay. I just want to say that it's okay to not be solidly in one place or another on the idea. But I do think that we should be informing ourselves and just really trying to learn. If you follow Prison Culture on Twitter, there are several different projects, books, opportunities that she has led and really created space around prison abolition. Another really good group that I actually am a orderly sustainer of is Critical Resistance. And I try my best to ask these questions and to really listen, because I have my opinion. I am where I am and I'm not ashamed of it. But at the same time, I want to do better, know better, and be better. And I think, hopefully Chuck D will do some of that. Someone had a tweet about him supporting African Bambaataa or being, the late, great, well, not late, but the great African Bambaataa, who later came out, had been molesting teenage boys for years. So something similar. And it wasn't a secret necessarily. And that really was a shocking, revelation for a lot of folks to kind of grapple with. But it's something else that just kind of got brushed aside and never really dealt with as well. And so there's a lot of internal healing that needs to happen. And a lot of folks need to think about the ways in which their own silence and complicit behavior causes harm to others. Which brings me to another topic. And I'm going to merge the last two things I want to talk about, because I talked a little bit longer about the R. Kelly stuff than I planned. But just thinking about where we are right now in democracy, as well as the latest round of attacks on abortion rights and abortion access. I've talked to y'all a little bit about abortion rights and abortion access before, but we have a really serious situation happening right now. When you look at a map of the United States, and Gutmaker Institute has these really cool maps. Some of them haven't been updated. And part of the updating is probably because their staff probably has not been able to keep up with how fast these anti-choice legislatures are passing new laws. But what folks need to understand, the point I really want to drive home today was that if Roe fell tomorrow, right, with the laws that exist right now, a good chunk of the country, not just the South, but a good portion of the country would be deemed either like leaning hostile all the way to very hostile. And I think they haven't updated the map since the Texas SB 8 went into effect. That is the Texas 6-week abortion ban. That also has the vigilante justice bounty attached to it. That bill hasn't been updated on their map, so I'm sure Texas would now be considered very hostile according to their map instead of like mostly hostile. I forget what the language is. But you have a good chunk of the country. You have Ohio. You have some other states that are outside of the South, in kind of like flyover country that are considered hostile to abortion. And so we have, population-wise, you have your California, you have New York, you have Illinois, which has passed sweeping legislation in recent years in favor, lifting up abortion and making sure people have access. And to be clear, whatever your personal beliefs are cool. Those are your personal beliefs. It's what you personally would or wouldn't do. And if you have a uterus, I actually care what you think, right? If you don't have a uterus, I kind of don't care about your opinion because you'll never have to make that decision. And I think that when we're talking about these restrictions, it's very easy for people to talk about there are, Republican or conservative men waging wars on women. But people ignore the fact that there are quite a few conservative women in these spaces that are a part of leading these charges against the rest of us. So they will still have their access to private doctors or whatever the case may be if an event them or their daughters ever needed it, or if they have, other gender nonconforming folks become pregnant in their life, which they might not actually acknowledge because of the way their politics is set up. But that is a very real thing, through people still being able to access it. They have enough funds or they can fly someplace else. The rest of us who cannot afford to just hop a flight, right, for a medical procedure of any sort, are going to be screwed. And so with the Supreme Court case, with the Dobbs case at the Supreme Court, you have, an attack from Mississippi concerning their 15-week abortion ban. So Mississippi enacted a 15-week abortion ban. I think it was in 2018. The only remaining abortion clinic in Jackson, Mississippi only goes up to 16 weeks. So you can tell they were really trying to chip away. And this has been decades in the making between Texas, Mississippi. All of these states have been decades. Ohio, decades. I think the fetal heart bill nonsense started in Ohio back in 2010 or 2011 or so. So these bills, just like we see with the voter suppression bills, right? They hop around. So you have some of the same backers, whether they were talking about these voter suppression bills and bills that undermine, democracy and free access to the ballot, or we have bills that are denying access to abortion rights. And like I've talked about before, even if we maintain Roe v. Wade, even if somehow with all that's happening right now, the Supreme Court maintains Roe v. Wade, its most basic right. But if they allow pre-viability bans to go into effect, and that's what we're talking about, a ban, abortion ban that goes into effect before a fetus is determined or considered medically viable, and that's what these 6-week abortion bans are. That's what we have one of those working its way through the court system that now is on hold, basically, at the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, pending the outcome of the Supreme Court case. And we're going to see how that Supreme Court case could actually, there are other states like Ohio. Actually, I think their Senate just had a hearing on a trigger ban yesterday. So trigger bans, and some states have trigger laws, like Alabama. Several states have trigger laws on the books. So as soon as Roe falls, automatically abortion is outlawed in these states, right? Or if Roe, they carve out a little narrow exception, but they gut Casey, which is where some of the language around pre-viability bans comes from, then you might have some of these 6-week bans in other states besides Texas going into effect as well. And so there's really a lot at stake. But why I want to talk about that in conjunction with voting rights, yesterday was National Voter Registration Day. And something that I've really been talking about with folks is looking at the intersection between the way in which rights are being whittled in terms of abortion access. And what we know is that even saving Roe is not enough because allowing these different, conservative states to whittle away rights and access the way they do basically makes abortion a prohibited procedure for many women, particularly women of color and Black women in most of these places, or pregnant people rather, for being able to access abortion rights. And so we need to be paying attention. Some folks may talk about being a one-issue voter, but we know that abortion is, polling, people believe in safe, legal abortion. Most people support, the first trimester. It dwindles some when you think about second trimester abortions. But there's a plurality of support here compared to these extreme abortion restrictions, which are not really widely supported at all. The problem is that connection between how these laws are passed and made is not necessarily made when people are going to the ballot box. So whether it's in 2021, where you have Virginia and Jersey and local elections happening, because even at the local election, there might be some minor things that local officials can do in terms of protecting reproductive rights, reproductive, access. But it's also why people are pushing for more of a reproductive justice framework, where looks at the dignity in being able to choose to have a family, like the choice of having a family and how to raise a family in a more comprehensive, mindset, which also takes into, greater health and economic concerns. When you're looking at several of these states that have these extreme abortion restrictions, they're also doing poorly in infant mortality and maternal mortality, particularly when you look at along race. You see in Mississippi in particular, they're having a surge along with the Delta of stillborn babies, as well as maternal deaths due to COVID. And so prenatal deaths due to COVID. So there are all these intersecting factors. And so these are destabilizing forces for democracy. And yesterday was National Voter Registration Day. And so we need to make democracy a practice where we're not just, okay, great, we registered to vote that one time, we voted that one election. Senator Nina Turner's talked about it. So many folks have talked about it. Like, there are no off cycles. We're always on. But how do we connect beyond our immediate progressive, liberal, if you mean that way, circles of organizing to actually talk to people about what is going on and how civic engagement and democracy really needs to be a practice, right? Like, because democracy is not a predetermined location. It's like, okay, hi, we've arrived at democracy, so everything is cool. Obviously, as we've seen for the last several hundred years, even before, predating the firm establishment of democracy here in the United States, we've seen that always it is a fight to have equal rights and access for everyone outside of a select few. And so that's going to be an ongoing process. Even if we get to some idyllic future like the Federation, there's always still going to be some conflict over who gets what resources, who gets what decision-making authority and power, And so we need to be thinking about these issues in conjunction with one another. And we need to think about it in terms of, and I'm saying if this is not your issue, then you all of a sudden need to become an abortion rights, abortion access, RJ crusader. What I am saying is that we need to have the presence of mind of how these issues intersect with our concerns. So if you're more into universal basic income and economic concerns, those feed into the ability of people to make choices about families and living that is certainly connected to an RJ discourse as well. So looking at the interconnectedness between our work and also understanding the ways in which all of the choices that we are making on a regular basis feed into whether or not this democracy is strong or not. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be rah-rah for any particular political party or candidates or anything like that. But what are we doing systemically to make sure that the people in our communities and in the broader society that we claim to care about have the conditions and means they need and deserve to live thriving lives, right? And so how do we start building that more as a practice and working that into our praxis instead of just showing up for whichever particular candidate we're lining up behind for president that we think might finally break through the barrier system. It's going to be a lot of chipping in the meantime before, we finally see those major flips in certain key seats. So, yeah. That's this morning. I hope it was illuminating in conversation with you all. Y'all can find me online on Instagram or Twitter at The Way with Anoa. And check out my writing. I have several pieces coming out in Miss Magazine, Truth Out, Yes Magazine, and you can always find my writing at newsone.com as well. So I'm going to kick it back over to the guys, and I hope y'all have a good rest of your Wednesday.
Shout out to Anoa, y'all. Anoa Changa, thank you so much for joining us this morning and filling in for Benjamin Dixon, who claimed his internet was out. He just wanted me to bring my ass on this morning. And yes, I am here on my day off, y'all. If y'all did not know, some of y'all feel so inclined to tip the DJ because he's on his day off. Please do. DJ H3C. Oh, look. DJ H3C on Cash App and Venmo. DJ H3C on Cash App and Venmo. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Get your coffee, your tea, whatever it is you need. Like it or not, he's coming up next with our sister from another Mr. Rebecca Azor. Good morning, everybody.
Try so hard to cover up your games. You try so hard, hoping that one day something gon' change.
Luke Kane, Shoot the Dragon, Brother Dragon, Susan, good morning. Esther Brochin, good morning. Vid Kernix, Ear Hustler, good morning. Kevin Eller, hey, good morning, Eller. Courtney, the SLP. Brother Goku, what's going on? Patricia, Melanie Dennis, Tyler Hackner, what's going on? The Pioneer. Good morning, everybody, y'all. Mary Smith, that's my auntie's name, too. Good morning, Mary. On and on it goes. Good morning, Melanie Dennis. Angela Newman. Good morning, everybody. Messy Times, Patricia Palumbo. Good morning. Seahorn, Jason, good morning, y'all. Good morning, Mom and Daddy. Good morning, Q. Love y'all. Good morning, I mean it. Environmental Coffee House, good morning. Brother Chuck Diesel. Not the Chuck Diesel that got something to say about R. Kelly. Wrong Chuck. Good morning, everybody. Y'all come on in, get some food to get settled. Like it or not, it's coming up next, y'all. Y'all stay tuned. Raylan, good morning. I don't say the name wrong. Tiger, good morning. Sal, good morning, and welcome KFC. Magdalene Moon, good morning, y'all. Jill Potts, good morning. Melody Dennis, good morning to you. Yeah, I'm taking Friday off while y'all talking in the background. There we go. Okay. The hell y'all talking about? Sylvia, good morning. So hard to cover up your games. Fingers, don't nobody see. All this time, it ain't nothing changed. Mark from Australia, good morning.
Time goes by and yet I wonder.
Y'all talk their ass up, niggas.
Are you and me still the same? Are you still loving the game?
They was.
I don't. It gets just rolling now and under.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Jonathan, good morning to you. Alicia, good morning. Ill Hustler. I know Miss Sophia somewhere out there. Miss Sophia. Hey, Miss Sophia. Speaking of Miss Sophia, I got called pretty today, y'all. Well, the full statement was, you're pretty annoying, but I focus on the positive things. So thank you for calling me pretty. I appreciate it.
To myself, and I repeat it in my head. Set your mind free. Set your mind free. No one knows what I've been through, but this is the end of me and you. Set your mind free. Made a promise to myself, this time I will keep it.
Y'all, it feels so cute because if you look to the side over there, it's some clips rolling and everything. That's so cute. We got like news reels and everything. I love it. Look over there. Look, y'all see it? Y'all see it? It's like cool video. Yeah, it is. I like that. Good morning, y'all.
Goes by and yet I wonder, why do we put each other through hell?
William Moore, good morning.
I know I should.
Told y'all season 2 had some good stuff going on, didn't it? I had to say good stuff. Gotta remember, we are not in after party yet.
Will I ever love again? I don't know if I can take it anymore.
Maya. Good morning. The Benjamin Dixon Show. Good morning, Ben. Let me tell y'all about Ben. Let me cut this music down. Ben just wanted to be able to sit in the audience this morning. That's all that was. Ben ain't got no damn internet issues. Ben over here in the chat room. Ben just wanted to be a goddamn on spectator this morning. We see you, Ben. We see you. I'm playing, brother. Good morning, brother Ben. Moon Meat, good morning. Goddamn Moon Meat. Nat, hey, what's going on, sister? Absolute, good morning. One Source Productions, good morning, y'all. Yes, being called out this morning. Georgia Ford. Right, Georgia. Good morning, Georgia. Brother Latif, good morning. Marcus, good morning, Marcus. Truth Dragon, good morning. And of course, y'all know it wouldn't be remiss if I didn't play this damn song. Yeah. Y'all know what time it is. Get your coffee, your tea, your drink, whatever it is you need. You already here, Dwayne. It's time for Like It or Not. Missy Music, good morning. Brother Cuckoo, good morning. Like it or not, it's starting now. Oh, like it or not, it's going down. Y'all need to make this blow up on the Billboard. Like it or not, the Billboard Trash 100. Y'all stick around. Oh, rebel us all. It's coming out. You know she got on it, Lily. For us. Oh, Benjamin is coming through. Thank you. That's my dog. Y'all get the full screen, full roll with the coffee cup. And through. Oh, I'm your DJ. DJ exclusive. Y'all know who I am. I stay in the chat room. Like it or not, it's going down. Like it or not, it's about to go down.
Like It or Not with Benjamin Dixon starts now.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, people.
Welcome to Like It or Not, where we are free to tell the truth
and not care who doesn't like it. Hey, man, did y'all hear about the mutant chicken? No.
Okay, hold on now. I know there's delays. There's delays. Oh.
Sorry for the foul language.
You know what? You know what? He did that, Pascal, so that he can get you at the beginning of the show. Because when you be about to head out and he can't get you. He did that so that he can get you at the beginning of the show. But you guys, I got to do my Benjamin Dixon this morning. Good morning, guys. It is Wednesday, September 29th. What is it? 29th, 20th? It's September 29th. We are at the end of the month, and we have our guest, who is family on the show, Mr. Pascal from the Pascal Show. You know, where we send you over there when y'all ain't pay y'all money to be patrons to go watch Pascal. I'm just kidding. No. When you guys, this is Mr. Pascal. Hey, how you doing this morning?
I'm very, very good. How you doing? How have you been, Rebecca?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, I'm doing okay. I got yesterday I went and got braces again. I went and got my braces back.
Oh, you did? Oh, really?
Yes.
She tried not to show them either. Come on, Rebecca, smile for us, please.
Now I look like it's a railroad tracks on my teeth. So it's like, but I had them for years before. I only been without them, 3-4 months. And I was, teeth were real cute. So I was doing the most. And they were like, we have to finish the process now, Rebecca. And I was like, no, I don't want to. And yeah. And when I went there, and when I went to the ortho yesterday, why was my orthodontist so extra? She was like, oh my God, I was just thinking about you. And I was like, okay. And then I started smiling. She was like, remember when you first came in here? Girl, yes, my teeth was a fool. Oh my God. And that, like, literally, she was just looking like, girl, it has been a progress. And I was like, yes, it has. So she's like, let's make sure that we finish it and we get you looking good. So yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait.
Well, shoot, you know what I mean? Hey, whatever you need to do. You look great with braces or without braces. So keep doing you, girl.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mel.
Rebecca,
Thank you.
Welcome.
Look at your Slack, welcome. Rebecca.
Look at myself?
In your Slack.
Oh, okay. Because I have Slack on silent.
Wait for the reaction.
Okay.
Drum roll.
Who did that?
No.
Why would you do that?
Rebecca.
All I'm gonna say is Mark.
Let me tell you something, Mark from Australia. That's not shiny and gold. First of all, my teeth are super white. That thanks to my ortho. And secondly, this ain't it. You are suspended off of duty. Remember? You're off of duty. Okay? You're off of duty. Now, listen, let's move on. I don't like that. Let's move on. But Pascal, you said you want to talk Will Smith. Fill me in on what's going on with Will Smith, because I just saw him looking tired in that magazine cover or whatever it was.
Yeah, he's been looking tired. Honestly, he finally just came out saying that that they have an unconventional relationship. Their marriage is kind of open. I mean, not kind of. I mean, it's open. It's open like a mug. And they finally came out and talked about that, or he finally admitted to this whole thing. Right. And of course, for me, I'm sitting there looking at this and going, well, then why do the whole entanglement conversation with about August Alsina? Why do all that stuff at the red table if this relationship was open, right?
He's trying to save face.
True, but then now come out later and say, oh yeah, we got an open relationship. That just makes no sense to me. You know what I mean?
But for years, though. Yeah, but for years, and there's nothing wrong with open relationships. If that's how you roll, that's how you roll. But at the same time, all these years we all knew. The culture knew, because that's what we used to be like. Oh, Jada and Will in an open relationship. Jada out here dating such. Yeah, we've been discussing this, and then the perception that they discussed, or the perception that they gave when they started coming out with the whole, the Will, the Smiths, the all that, whatever, like they're the best family or whatever. And I can't say the best, because monogamy doesn't make you the best family. Whatever your decision is that works for you, that's what makes you guys the best you. But the fact that they kept not being truthful and then cutting up here and then da-da-da-da, it just kind of it was weird. And then when this whole August Alsina thing came out, it was like, we saw the pain. You can't say we ain't see the pain in Will Smith's eyes. Okay, we ain't see the defeat.
Stuff combust. You know what I mean?
He looked defeated.
Like explode. Yeah,
he looked defeated that had to come to light. And then I guess now, even in those pictures, I think even discussing it in that interview when he had to do the photo shoot, it just maybe wore him out and drained him. Because y'all can't tell me that's the same man that be on his TikTok. Y'all can't tell me that's the same man that be on the IG. Because it was just giving I am tired. I am stressed. I am tired of talking about the entanglements. I'm tired of holding on to a lie. And it almost seems like Jada has the teacup and she's spinning it around. She's just that's what it's like.
Right. Also, you gotta put into consideration too, because you have Willow Smith that has come out saying that she is in a polygamous relationship as well, that she has multiple people in one relationship. So where do you think she saw that foundation at? I mean, if you really think about it, you know, like I said, or like Rebecca just said a second ago, we've been know about this, you know, but now finally, you know, this whole thing is kind of coming out like, okay, finally, the truth is, it's real, you know, the truth is real, you know. Now, next thing you know, we're going to hear all these other stories like the gerbil thing with Richard Gere's A True Story. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe the truth will finally come out of Hollywood with everything. You know what I'm saying?
I doubt it.
Come out the closet. You see what I'm saying? The Illuminati is most definitely real. You see what I'm saying? I don't want us to get into too much trouble here with the Illuminati.
No. We're not. I mean, look, because I don't need Illuminati checking in because we had so much going on with that. We don't need them checking in because, you know, they be in the comment section like, this is the Illuminati. Get out of in the name of Jesus. But speaking of...
there was another... star that came out and was spilling all the tea on a lot of people. Was it Quincy Jones in his interview that he did? Oh yeah, it was Quincy Jones.
Yeah,
he spilled all the beans on all those actors, actresses.
He did.
Yeah, he spilled a lot of tea.
The Beatles.
Yeah, he did.
He couldn't even play a note. Stuff like that. He said that.
No, there was a lot. Quincy Jones and Will Smith, who are both like a huge and people who have empires, right? We have Will Smith, you know, and these people that can spill the tea on a lot of people, and we listen, right? We listen to all of it. The same people are the same ones that be leading charges that ain't it. We talked about Nicki Minaj. I know where I stood on that one. But then you got those. But then you got those like Will Smith, who most recently in an interview discussed, hey, you know, let's defund the police, but change the wording to let's defund the bad police. Let's defund the bad police. Let me say it again for you so you guys can hear. Let's defund the bad police. So what we gonna do to pick out who the bad police are? It be people on the force for years that ain't done a thing wrong, but they have that mentality of, you know, they are the superior to everybody in the streets that they run into. Police officers have that. We know that the system was built in racism, white supremacy. So a lot of them may for years have this great background. As you can see, the ones that are put on trial for killing Black men, they're saying, oh, for years, this man has been great. Clean record, hasn't done a thing. And, you know, now he's, you know, charged for killing a Black man, shooting a Black man for no reason, an unarmed Black man. We see that often. So how do we just defund and pick out the bad police? How do they say that? One bad apple. We put that somewhere, right? In the midst of all the good ones. That's going to ruin the bunch. Okay? We see Black folks. We see Black police officers, right? We see Black police officers in these spaces, and they even adopt the wording, the mentality, all the whole way the system of police officers function, forgetting that if they take off their outfits, right, they will be one of just every single one of us, right? That's how it works. But there is no such thing as defunding bad police. It is defunding police, period. And if you want to get real radical, because that's what they call it, when you say abolish the police, then abolish the police, period, until we have a system that works for everyone. What do you say, Pascal?
I couldn't agree more. I think that we need to, the system is messed up. The system is truly jacked up. And yeah, this is something that's deeply rooted. This is a history of bad apples and bad apples and bad apples on top of each other, learning from the generation before them. You know, there's cadets that are learning from, you know, the rookies are learning from the veterans and so on and so forth of, oh, this is what I can do. And this is how I can get away with this, that, and the third. No, all that stuff needs to go bye-bye. We need to restructure this thing and get it right. And then bring in the right people, start something new. Get social workers involved with certain situations that are going on, because a lot of these mental health calls that they have don't have to end up with somebody dead in the ground and suddenly we have another hashtag that we have to fight over. You know, yeah, like I said, this is just something that's getting really, really old. Bad cops are working with good cops. There are good cops. But the thing is that there needs to be some sort of structure so that they can, or procedure where they can sift out, at least sift out the bad cops. so we can get things moving towards something better.
Yeah.
What do you think, James?
What do you say? What do you say, Bubba?
Yeah, I agree. My camera had died, first of all. But yeah, I totally agree because you just can't go through a bunch and just say, oh, okay, you're a bad cop, you're a bad cop. You're a good cop. You seem like you're pretty good. And then granted, not all cops are bad, but there's just no way that you're going to go out there and just pick one and say, oh, you're a bad cop. Guaranteed there's going to be more than 3 or 4 or 5, 10, the whole force that's going to be bad. You just can't pick out one. It's not possible.
Yeah.
You ain't wrong.
What kind of what kind of conversation is Will Smith trying to lead? Focus on your entanglement, not entanglement. Focus on getting rest, Will, because you are legendary, and when you utilize your platform to say these things, like I said, it sucks. We talked about this so many times. The effect that it has is that people really will listen to it. And it's stupid, but people will follow that and probably be holding up signs next week in front of the Capitol talking about some defund the bad police. Why? Because Will Smith said it. Why? Because Will Smith has millions of followers. Why? Because Will Smith will repost, white kids rapping his theme song from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It's just an effect that's just too much. I don't understand why celebrities get so much. And it's also, even when they say something good, it'd be like they say something good and we take that up and far and beyond too, and it'd be like, but y'all, it's a given. It's a given. But yeah.
Well, Rebecca, if you don't mind me adding on top of this, let's boil it down to something very, very simple. Bad Boys. He has one of his biggest franchises. It's him playing what? A Miami police officer.
Speak on it.
So why not him sitting there going, well, he doesn't want to ruin his franchise. He doesn't want to ruin one of his most secured bags out here. There might be a Bad Boys 4 coming through. You see what I'm saying? So maybe he's sitting there going, well, I play a cop, and it's one of my biggest grossing movies or franchises that I even have. I mean, have you seen After Earth? Have you seen After Earth?
I loved After Earth. I heard it was so bad. It was so bad I didn't even see it.
I loved it. Terrible. I mean, it was terrible, but I loved it.
What was the other one? What was the other one? Collateral Beauty. Don't see it.
Just don't see that one.
Legend. I like that movie, but I watched it again in my older years, and it became.
What,
no, it wasn't I Am Legend. Excuse me. It wasn't I Am Legend because I loved I Am Legend. It was I, Robot. I watched it again, and I said, "Why? Why? Why?"
No, 6 degrees of separation.
Dwayne,
y'all not about
you were
to
trying
talk
to say
down on iRobot, man.
Now,
iRobot was cool,
bruh. It was cool.
Come on,
bruh. It was cool.
He was a cop in that too.
iRobot was cool, but
he was a cop in that.
It was cool.
Okay,
and he was a cop in that one too. But all I'm saying, like I said,
okay. So he's giving a bias. A very biased approach on that. That's why he's saying defund the police. So he's saying I represent cops in more than one movie. That's where my bag is secured. Yeah. And so I need to solidify my place with the thin blue line community, but also let the folks know that I understand and I see them too. So we need to defund, but just defund those that are bad.
The bad cops, not bad boys.
Okay. But
exactly.
the bad boys were cops. They just weren't bad cops.
They were good.
They were
being bad.
So
being so good they were bad at what they did.
So
Dwayne, what you trying to say, Dwayne? You
just thinking about it. Just thinking about it. Will Smith has a long history of being a cop.
Being a cop. Boys, it's about every movie.
Wild Wild West. Bright.
Men in Black.
He was a cop with the aliens.
Men in Black.
He was a man. You know what? We might need to have a different conversation about Will Smith, man. I love
Will Smith. The Popo.
Okay, listen. Now
Will Smith 12. He 12.
We're not dissecting. Hey, we're not
his pops
dissecting
left him
Will
on Fresh
Smith.
Prince. He changed on us.
Okay, look, so I can't do that to Will right now,
after his pops left him on Fresh Prince, he changed on us.
Wow, we're not doing that. We're not doing that because that's a special moment for a lot
You remember the scene? He don't love me no more. He don't love me no more.
That is a special moment. Stop playing. That is a very special moment in history for a lot of people. And I will not stand here and allow you to say he's changed since his daddy left him. Okay? I ain't gonna do that.
That just shows you the power of having a father figure around, because
Dwayne, get out of
Will Smith lost his father figure, and now look at him. He over there taping for the other side in the cop.
But Uncle Phil though, Dwayne.
Yeah,
Uncle Phil.
But hey,
Georgia in our group say Will Smith the ops. Yeah,
So we're not going to give. Okay, so here's my last question before we move on to the next segment. So we're not going to give any Will Smith any grace.
Oh, I mean, he deserves. Oh, here it is. I'm going to still give him his flowers while he's still here. He has done some really great things as far as some of his. Well, I'm not saying all of his movies have been great. I refuse to watch Wild Wild West ever again, but he's done a lot of really great things as far as his movies, and he's really great at motivational speaking. There's a lot of really great quotes that he has that I listen to, that I read, on a not a daily basis, but as often as I stumble upon them. So real talk. I mean, I give him mad props for what he has done, right? And for him having this open relationship, some other fellas would give him a high five. So just saying, I mean, I'm going to give him props where props are due, but I will call him out on the other stuff for sure.
Yeah. So, Pascal, you got about 3 minutes.
3 minutes. So we got to talk about this Haiti, right?
Yeah, let's chime in on it. Let's just kind of chime in on it real quick, and we'll continue the conversation after you go wherever you're going, because your show don't start till 10, because I'm all up in your business. So
dang.
All up in your business. Prep I got to do. I got to prep some stuff today. So
okay, you got to work. You got to work.
Yeah.
All right.
He ain't doing them sitting around trying to come up with dad jokes.
I want to know before you get out of here. I want to know what's so big about that show. But before you get out of here. Now, we talked about those migrants being gone from the Del Rio border, the border of that borders Texas and Mexico. But how many are staying in the U.S.? And this is where the ABC 13 Houston, their coverage had to say about it.
How do U.S. authorities decide who gets to stay and who has to go? The answer I found out today is a little bit complicated. And in fact, even those who are coming here don't know either.
I didn't know if I was going to be deported back to my country or not, so I was very, very nervous.
As of now, about 13,000 migrant people have temporary authority to stay here. More than 2,000 Haitian nationals, though, have been put on planes and deported back to Haiti. Legally, the U.S. government has to allow people who are already here in the country to apply for asylum, but we're also in a pandemic. Public health law is what allows those deportations.
Scholars have written about what's called refugee roulette, or asylum roulette. And so there is some amount of subjectivity that's involved. There are also certain bars, certain prohibitions on granting asylum that would kick in to certain people. So it's very much a case by case. It's very much individual.
And those who have been able to get that temporary authority to stay here in the United States will have to meet with immigration officials within 60 days of coming here.
Do we expect to see more large groups of people coming from Haiti? We know that the whole immigration issue, it flows and it changes.
I did speak to several migrant people actually at shelters in Del Rio. A lot of this information, including exactly where to go, is just spread through social media, apps like WhatsApp. So therefore, some of these groups really start to get bigger than anybody would have ever expected. About 8,000 of those Haitian people who were trying to come into this country actually went back to Mexico. So there's no telling at this point on when any of them may try to come back.
Yo, that channel, that news channel is the ops. If you're talking ops, that news channel just now is the ops, spreading the business, talking about how WhatsApp is where we get our information and where them 8,000 Haitians went because they, left the border. They talking about they went to Mexico. So a lot of that isn't true, and a lot of it, is some opposite. Like I don't like that. I don't like that at all. You can't trust nobody. Can't trust the media. Can't even trust the locals. But go ahead, Pascal. With you have to go. So what information? How do you feel about that information?
I'm still kind of wrapping my mind around it, to be honest. I wonder why I'm still wondering how many Haitians were actually brought in to be, I guess, processed so that they can come out. There has been talk, of course, because I know you guys are going to be talking about the Chris Wallace conversation as well here in a little bit. He was basically asking, like, what are they doing with the people that were sent back to Haiti? Left here. Why were certain people sent back to Haiti? That's the thing I'm still trying to figure out and try to understand is why were there only, a certain select few that were allowed to go into America, right? And why, you know what I mean? How did they pick this thing? How did they know, like, oh, whoever's left-handed, y'all going back to Haiti. Sorry, guys. You know what I'm saying? And what was the decision maker? How were these things made? How are these decisions made? Because I don't know how this is. 2 seconds later, they're gone. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, see them there. They're under the bridge. There's thousands of people. And then almost seconds later, we see Mayorga at the podium explaining everything. And we see empty. We see the same area completely empty. What's going on here?
Looking like a whole, like they literally picked up thousands of them, and we just saw them on the news. We had people who were out there accounting for people, saying, okay, they wanted to stay at the where the border of where they were staying. The immigrants, they didn't want people to get to them, so they told them they had to come back the next day. They came back the next day, circled around that place, saying, is this the same? This is not the same place. They circled it, trying to figure out, was it the same bridge? Because they, U.S., literally went there in the middle of the night, took them people, and brought them God knows where. So many accounts that you hear through social media, because people are talking to their families. Some people are posting up the instances of them pulling up to areas where they've seen, because they had to drive around, where they've seen lines of Black immigrants being loaded onto buses. Just yesterday, I saw a video from ATL for Haiti that they posted up, where they were confronting someone who was working there. And while clearly the person was highly frustrated because they probably had a long night, they were saying that there are, the woman that was working there and that was processing them was saying, you can't see them. No, you come back tomorrow at 7 a.m. if you want to talk to any and account for any, because there are a church organization and that are coming here. And she said, you guys, and the man was like, we're not a church organization, though. She's like, well, these organizations are coming here and taking them and dropping them off at a processing center or something like that. And I get woke up in the morning at 7 a.m. away from my family, having to go and handle this and put them on buses. And he's like, but where are the buses going? Come back at 7 a.m. and we'll talk about it at 7 a.m. I saw that on video. I have to get that video so I can play it for you guys. But yeah.
Oh, I would love to see that video. Oh, don't kick me off this yet. I got time for this. Hold up. Don't kick me off this yet. I got time for this. See, this is the thing that doesn't make sense to me. Like, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it, too, because I'm not kidding. I got done with the show. It was, I think it was Friday's show. Wrapped up, walked out, and I see the press briefing with Mayorga. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his last name. But anyway, right.
Mayorkas?
Mayorkas. Yes, thank you. Mayorkas. So he's talking about this, and I just see it empty. Completely. I'm like, how did you process over 17,000 people? 17,000 people. How did you process that many people in less than 24 hours? How is that possible? Where you were able to decide who gets to stay and who goes? Where did this happen? How did this happen? I'm sorry, y'all. Like, I'm still.
Don't apologize. I'm right with you.
Because
I'm
2
right
seconds
with you.
ago, I'm seeing Mexicans giving out water and food to the Haitians. And I'm going, yes, you know what I mean? Showing some solidarity, showing some help, reaching out. 2 seconds later, I'm not kidding you. 2 seconds later, what we're seeing right now on the screen, empty, ghost town, tumbleweeds. How did that happen? Where are they? Where did they go, y'all? Where did they go?
That's the question that we've had for weeks, but there's so many different accounts. Some Haitians are saying they were taken in a bus, taken to another area where they're detained and being processed to be deported. Others, it's like they didn't choose who's the good Haitians or the bad Haitians or who gets they just chose a few or not a few. They chose a section of them to, I believe, and here's the due process, Ben. Here's the due process right here. They chose some after putting out that press release that thousands of them, not a particular number, nothing definitive, but thousands of them have been processed or are in the works of being processed to stay here, right? They needed to have something for that. So I believe in the middle of the night, they done grabbed them, made thousands of them and go home. And then had, maybe like 2,000, 3,000 of them processed to stay so that they can account for the news that they put out. And we can now start discussing, U.S. turned a corner and allowed thousands of them to stay. But the numbers that we saw out there does not make sense on the thousands that you guys couldn't even verify that sources from the White House, verified sources, couldn't tell us who, couldn't tell us when, couldn't tell us how, right? How these people were being processed. These asylum seekers were being processed and where they were being kept. Who was accounting for them? Where are they going? What is the process going to be like for them? And now you're telling me 8,000. So the numbers are they're not making sense. Because now they're reporting that 8,000 of them went back across the border to go stay in Mexico.
Right.
The math ain't mathing, baby. The math ain't mathing.
I've been saying that so much this whole week. The math ain't mathing right, y'all. This is just nothing's adding up. I don't get it. I don't get it either. And the thing is like, wait, are y'all trying to, obviously they're not sifting out the drug dealers and the murderers and the rapists. It's like almost they just went everybody from left of me, from the left of me, is going in, and the other half, how many families were torn apart? Were any families torn apart?
So many questions. So the treatment, like I said, the people who have been posting and they can't post where they're finding them, right? They're just watching them be processed, and some of them be processed to go be detained, to go be deported, and some of them are being processed to go stay with someone. The fact that this lady in the video that I let me know when you guys have it. The lady in the video said, can you account for anybody? Lets me know that, if people are coming there and accounting for people here in Atlanta have been opening up their homes, have been pulling up to the Texas border, y'all. This is actually happening. That's why people were still continuing to go weekly during the weekends and stuff when they were at the border. And I think that U.S. was getting word of this and stuff like that. They were going there and saying, that's my cousin. That's my sister. That's my brother. And they were bringing them back and putting them in Airbnbs or bringing them into their own homes if they were able and capable. And I think that word was getting out. And they're like, hell no, we're not going to have all these tens of thousands of Haitians, migrants, just come over here, asylum seekers, just come over here and have opportunities, 60 days to get their stuff together because these people are accounting for them. There's so many. The people are saying that they're being detained in places where they're not given food. When I saw that lady unfold the drap, the blanket that she got, it was foil. Foil. She showed us what was given to her. She said, this is what they gave me after my 2 months trek through Brazil, through Mexico to get here. Here's what they gave me to cover myself up. I was hungry.
Aluminum foil.
That's why we were going to that border. We were going to that border to feed them, to account for people, to see if they were doing okay. Because what the media was showing us was not what we needed. Was not what we needed to understand and see at the time. But all of a sudden, the press release comes out. All of a sudden, all them people are moved. If y'all really wanted to do that, because they were piling up there for weeks. If they really wanted to do that, they would have done it a long time ago.
Facts.
Now we see that they were capable of doing something.
No, I and that's the thing too. Also, I just wanted to add this too. You said earlier, and it just hit me. You said earlier that people were taken to places to stay or into a facility or whatnot. Where's the video? Where are photos? Where's the footage? Where's the proof that those people are safe wherever they took them to? You see what I'm saying? They just disappeared and you don't have any, you're not showing us the Carfax. Where's it at?
Yes.
Where's the proof?
You said, where's the Carfax? When I think of that, there are two sides to that coin, I feel like. I want to know what's happening with them too. I want to know. But when I do see the random footage that's being put up, I'm like, oh, they're here, but it's an unmarked location for a reason. Because if police officers, feds, ICE find out where they are, it's like, oh, the ones that have been taken by other folks and stuff like that, then I feel like it's going to blow cover for the people who are helping them, and who knows where there is a place where they are being detained and they're being able to walk in there and they can grab them. It's like once word gets out that this particular group of people is going to this particular detention center to take those group of people, we're gonna put a stop to it. And I think that's what was going on. They found out that there was help coming for those people at the border. Oh, I get so frustrated. I get a little emotional when I think about their trek, and for them to be treated the way they were. And then for them to, like you said, be picked up and we not know what the hell was going on with them for damn weeks, for a week. We was like, where the hell did they go? They were just there. And we don't trust America. We don't trust this government. We don't trust these officials. We do not. So when they disappeared, all of us, especially us Haitians, we were filled with some kind of confusion and emotion, because where the hell did you take our people?
Imagine if, this is what breaks my heart more than anything. It gets me kind of, this thing messes me up a lot. But imagine, I hate to play this thought in anybody's minds, but let me paint something really quick. Imagine those people having no clue where they're going. Imagine if they think that they're going to go somewhere. Like they're going to be brought in, processed so that they can live their life, find their refuge, find salvation here in America, only to find out that they're getting escorted onto a plane. They're thinking, oh, yes, we're finally going to be processed. We're finally going to be able to find our pursuit of happiness here on this earth, in this country, only to find out that they are either back in Mexico, like they say a lot of them are, or they're on a plane getting flown out back to Haiti from the place from whence they were trying to run away from. So it breaks my heart that these people would go, these Haitian people, my Haitian people, our Haitian people would go out of their way, months going through all types of terrain. God knows how they got through, how they got to Texas, and God knows what their stories are. I'm sure they're epic, only to find out that they're getting turned right back around, flown within hours. They're back on Haiti soil. It just, it's sad, because in my mind, I keep thinking that all these people are going, yes, yay, celebration. We're finally going to go. We're not going to be living under a damn bridge. And then next thing you know, they're being sent back to Mexico, and they're like, what? Or they're going back to Haiti. And imagine families being split apart, possibly split apart.
Yes.
Because somebody just said, okay, we're taking 300 people. Let's go.
Yes.
You're staying in America. You know what I'm saying? It just really breaks my heart, guys.
It's so many. It does. It breaks my heart. And I know that we can talk about it for God knows how long, but I know that you have to go, and they're beating me up in the chat for you and your time. They want me to make sure that you are heading out to go do what you need to do. But Pascal, as always, thank you for pulling up on the show. Thank you that we finally were able to share that moment. Let the spirit use you and have that conversation. Pascal, tell people where to find you.
You can go over to the youtube.com/The Pascal Show. We'll be talking about a whole bunch of stuff today. Some updates on the whole Brian Laundrie thing, the Gabby Petito thing. Of course, there's some updates on Kelly Price and how she is not missing anymore. So we have a bunch of things to talk about. I saw that there were some topics that were talked about earlier in the show today. But we are going to be talking about that as well at great lengths.
That's all right. We have. I love that we can talk about the same things, and at the same time, it's just how we present it. All of us have our little attitudes and our little, styles of presenting. And I think it's still good to hear everybody's way of speaking. Pascal, change that picture because that is not you in that picture. That's not you.
I promise you, I got some new photos coming out very, very soon for promo stuff and all that. I guarantee you that. So yeah, that is an old photo, but it was an honor to chat with you guys. And anything for Haiti, I will stop. I will stop my schedule and be late. If you guys are covering it here, I'm more than happy to stay a little bit longer or a lot more longer to chop it up about my Haitian people. So thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys soon.
All right, no problem. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, brother. Walking out. You ain't doing no joke today.
I'm letting you go.
You're done. Oh, wow. Thank you.
I'm letting you go.
It looks like Pascal didn't want the joke because he ain't gone yet. Yep, it looked like he did want the joke. It looks like.
But while you still here though, how do trees access the internet?
I don't know, man.
They log in.
Oh, I could have had that one, man. I should have just broken down. Never mind.
I don't get that one, but I'm gonna register it on this break.
Logs.
I'm gonna register it on this break, and then Bubba, take us to break. Pascal, you enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you guys, or we'll see you later, Pascal. Bye.
Yes.
Hey, Pascal, what do you call someone who tells bad dad jokes but isn't a dad?
James.
Yeah, exactly, a faux pas.
I'm done, bro. I'm done.
Love you, brother Pascal. I'll see you next time, man. Hey, man, if you're not a patron, you won't be at the after party. Make sure that y'all slide on over to our brother Pascal show and check him out, man. He's really damn good. He is. Y'all make sure y'all check him out, okay? Y'all lunch all the damn tomatoes, y'all. Keep home.
Run away from you. Come a little bit closer.
Shout out to everybody, y'all. Good morning. Again, everybody is joining us from Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, TV, everywhere you work. Good job, man. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We need it. If you have not yet, patreon.com/likeitordnot, patreon.com/likeitordnot, or patreon.com/thebp. Make sure that you join, man. We got a Patreon party next week. And I think I want to do a 80s, 90s theme. So, yeah. Let's get that together. 80s, 90s theme party. So y'all make sure y'all come dressed in your best 80s, 90s attire. And we're going to rock that damn thing out next week, man. Y'all stay tuned. More like it or not coming up next.
You're a little bit selfish. You get mad every time you
good morning.
Take me with you. I'm scared you're gonna blow your fuse. Come a little bit closer. Yeah, I can really start over.
Laura Stroud, it'll be next week. Oh my gosh.
In the back of my mind,
David and
there's someone waiting on me.
Oh yeah, next week. Yeah, next week.
Time because you're scared and lonely. Finally got some closure. Yeah, I can finally start over. Yeah. So all my ladies who got a brother.
Six Dragon Daddy, good morning.
Put your finger right in his face and tell that man.
Yeah, I got you. Y'all just make sure that y'all have y'all best 90s attire on. I'm come in with some big chains, I'm thinking Run DMC looking stuff. Who knows? I don't know yet. I got you.
Here's to the memories. Cheers to who used to be. Your friend said that you left me. I'm glad that's what you believe. All my ladies who got a brother that doesn't treat them right. Put your finger right in his face and tell that man bye-bye. I'm too fly. I'm too fly. Oh, bye-bye, bye-bye. U-G-L-I, that's how you spell goodbye. U-G-L-I, you'll never see me cry. U-G-L-I, world has gone to bye-bye. And maybe I just wanna let it shine.
sipping on next. Lil baddie, cashing big checks. I bought the whole block out, now that's a big flex. Peeping out my Uber window, like what's next? Got new levels and new devils out the wazoo. Ain't no worries, life gets better when you find you. And if you mind you, peace will abide and hide you until it's time to start anew. So live it up, we grown, ain't got no curfew. Who brought the bad vibes? Tell that bitch move. Walking all night, and that's a bitch move. Press that I arrive, mad that I survive. All your sad attempts to send me to the sky. But I've been in the wind, been had wings, I was always this fly. Oh yes, and that's probably why you're mad. Don't let Evie turn you into a trash bag. So get glad, find out why you sad. All that jealousy,
you know who she sounds like?
I think it's time to turn that mirror on you. Put it up
Young
close
Lauryn
to a clear
Hill.
view. And look deep down inside. And soon you will
don't
find
think so?
a pretty
Think
soul
about
that
Lost
needs more
Ones.
shine. My world has come together.
Nice. Listen to the voice a little bit. Like not here, but when she start rapping. Oh, somebody said Rhapsody. She does sound like Rhapsody a little bit. I can see Rhapsody. Okay, yeah.
Come and test me, my mom beat will have you shook. It's a marathon, but baby girl never let up. No need
I need
for
to
speed,
get
but
that
keep
clip.
your foot up on the gas pedal. Ain't worried about having a golden award when God made me to be an ice cold medal. Why are you always stressed about my life? Talking with your frenemies about me, saying, "Ooh, girl, have you seen it like the shine light?"
B said she hears a little E.
Please know I'm a touchable girl. I'll slip through your fingers like a real fly kite. Why you wanna turn a good day into fight night? Constantly projecting all the negativity. Take that bad energy and go and get your mind right. Say a prayer tonight to keep it so tight. You in the big world of danger.
We chilling. Having a whole conversation.
I put the work in. Now I got them big bags that you call Birkins.
Come on now, she got the big bags. It's called Birkins.
She said she got the big bags called Birkins. I got a couple fake Birkins in the closet right now.
Can't stand you.
There's this brand from Sonique Saturday. Shout out to Sonique Saturday. She sells, and they're pretty pricey though. She sells bags that look exactly like Birkins, same quality, same everything. And it says, "You're fake like this Birkin." She is an HBCU grad, by the way, not from Florida A&M, not from BCU, but she's an HBCU grad. And she sells bags that are very popular that have been worn by celebrities too and stuff. And it says, "You're fake like this Birkin." And honey, those bags give better than the Birkins, honey. I'm telling you. It's like they're just they are adorable. They are adorable. Yeah. So I gotta get it. And there's this other brand that I saved and I hope I find it. The bags say stuff like protect Black women and like Black women are the future type things. And I'm like, that's real cute. That's real cute. It gave me an idea for something, but we'll talk about it later when we start making our merch for the show.
Okay.
So listen, with all that talk of Haiti, I wanted to give you guys 6 ways that Haiti helped the U.S. Just for tea. Just for a little bit of tea.
Come on now. I'm here for this.
You here for this? Okay. So
Yes.
during the late 1700s, Haiti was the richest colony in the world, making more money than the entire Spanish Empire, right? And when the USA was battling against the English during their revolution, France, after making their wealth off of Haiti, gave $9 billion to the USA in assistance. This money was instrumental in winning the war. Without Haitian money, there would have never been any USA independence. France used Haiti as a transient point to send military aid to America during its Revolutionary War in support of the American Patriot cause. The gunpowder used in the famous U.S. Battle of Saratoga came from Haiti. Haiti sent over 500 men of color to fight for the American Patriot cause in Savannah, Georgia, including children as young as 12 years old. One of the children was the future leader of Haiti, Henry Christophe. When the Haitian Revolution happened, Napoleon, losing the world's richest colony to formerly enslaved Africans, was desperate for money. With this loss and his desperation to fund his conquest in Europe, he sold 530 million acres of land to America for money. These acres of land makes up what we know as the states of Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, Colorado, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wyoming, North Dakota, and Montana. Without the Haitian Revolution, these areas would have stayed belonging to France. During the heights of the American Civil War and the fight to keep slavery alive in the USA, Haiti offered free passage, land, and citizenship to African Americans who could make it to the ship leaving for Haiti in New Orleans. After the Haitian Revolution, France forced Haiti to pay them $21 billion in today's money for their freedom from enslavement. Over the decades, the U.S. became an appointed debt collector for France, accruing millions in fees. USA and France partnership to destroy Haiti. The USA took control over Haiti's gold reserve. They seized control of Haiti's custom houses, administrative institutions, banks, and the national treasury, with the United States using a total of 40% of Haiti's national income to repay debts to American and French banks for 20 years. Under U.S. government control, a total of 40% of Haiti's national income was designated to repay debts to American and French banks. I just had to add that at the end because I want y'all to understand that this is why we literally got, when I say the USA's foot on the neck of Haiti, this is what business did USA have in France and Haiti's business, right? That's our business. We done came up, revolutionized the whole Black freedom thing. That was us. Okay. That was us. We done fought to get our freedom over there in Haiti. They were so mad about it. After we done helped Haiti, US do all this stuff, they done partnered with France to continue to bring Haiti down.
That really sucks.
And that's just US. That's just how we help the USA. Did you hear because of our revolution? Did you hear how they unfreed all those states in America?
And somebody said something that made a lot of sense. That sounded like all the red states too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it sucks because we don't learn this stuff about any of this history. We don't know any of this history.
No,
and we probably never will. Rebecca, if one of you saying right there, if you saw my face, was just like, are you serious?
Yeah. And you guys, that all I'm saying is that's just how we help the US. So many Latin countries hold the colors of our flag to show us praise for helping them and their countries get free. Okay? So it's almost like I want people to understand that this is exactly why when I preach and I say these things, and I do put U.S. At the forefront of Haiti's downfall a lot of times and being involved in business they have no business being in. These are the things why. But I also want people to understand that Haiti at one point in somebody's lifetime was the richest, the vastest, country in this world, and we have so many resources. We have great people. I'm a product of those people. And, I don't want to always to be looked at as we're needy and we want to just be looking for a better life. That's because the beautiful and all of that we have over there, it's constantly trying to be taken from us. So you know how it is. You know how it is. I was watching a damn movie yesterday. I'd say the same damn movie, The Underground Railroad, Bubba. And remember yesterday when I was telling you, dang, it's great. They're humanizing them and they're doing all that stuff. And just like that, it was taken away from me on this episode. And it shows me that, dang, just when we're looking at Black people as what they are, as humans, and when they needed at least to find themselves as well in the midst of all of that turmoil, it'd be about 1-2 days of happiness and then boom. Because white folks can't stand white folks back then is what I'm referring to. And it's a couple of y'all, a few of y'all, a majority of y'all in certain areas who can still act this way. But they showed you guys after this, the main character was just trying to get free so many times. I've never been so stressed out. Like, girl, they got you again. Okay.
Right.
This is like the 10th time in this damn thing that they done got you. You're never going to be free. You just never going to be free, sis. Give it up. I actually just wanted her to give it up. But no, they showed a portion of when it was a growing community of free Blacks. And they had created a winery so good It had them white folks all around town like, damn, these black folks, they really got something going. They created a vineyard, and they were paying them good, the free black people that were working there to keep the vineyard up, right? And they had them in slave homes that were nice, though, but better. They weren't slave homes. These are free blacks' homes. So they had couches, and all of them carried guns because in this particular area, they were allowed to carry guns. And these black people weren't allowed to come, the white people weren't allowed to come onto the premises. Yet, here go black people. We wanted to see the good in the white government and added Ben is calling me right now, and I don't understand why. I really don't.
What the hell?
I'm working. Ben, I'm on a show. Ben, I'm working right now. But
oh my God.
But but these people, the black folks, they wanted to partner actually with the white government to show them, hey, this is our land and we're doing something big. I want you to come and see for yourself what black folks have done. Upon inviting the white government, we're talking about like the governor or the mayor of that area, they actually came to see it. And while those people were talking about what they've done, and this one person was trying to explain to the white people what we've done and how we've grown this and how we just want to be free and seen as an equal, the government officials were plotting and then brought so many white folks to kill all those people, saying, you heard what he said. There's so many more of these type of black people, and they killed them off. You know what it was reminiscent of for me? It was reminiscent of the bombings that happened in these different areas, like Tulsa, and how the government did that. And then the next day just went on with their lives. They didn't want the forward movement of black people. And that's what I think about with Haiti. Haiti was literally this amazing, vast, full of resources place. And it's just unacceptable to see black people in that particular way. And when they are in that particular way, it has to be the first black woman to, the first black man to, the first black such and such, the first black family to, we're still doing that till this day. That's a problem.
That's a big problem. A huge problem. Because you're absolutely right. We are still doing that. It's like, dang, why we still got to be the first black person to do this, that, and everything? It's a lot. And Rebecca, let me ask you, what on the underground, I'm so sick of being on the underground, what area is it taking place in?
It's so many different areas that are taking place, and it starts off in Georgia. And I don't want to be, because I'm probably like a spoiler for everyone, but it starts off in Georgia. It's always either in Georgia, Texas, Florida. But then you got those states like North Carolina, South Carolina, and understanding what happened there. Now, I know this is a fictional book, but it's based upon true events. There was no actual railroad for people to understand. There was no railroad, like a real railroad. Yeah, Portia from Real Housewives of Atlanta. There was no actual railroad, and that was years ago. She has since learned, and she's now a part of the movement. But there was no actual railroad. But the fact that they literally labeled it a railroad because they were creating paths for slaves. Oh gosh, I'm getting chills because that's just making me think about how like Haitians were coming over to the border because they were literally creating a path for them to literally come to the and it was word of mouth. They had to keep it word of mouth. They couldn't have it on paper. And every home that they stopped at on this route, they were considered the stations, and the people who were leading the charge were considered the conductors. And that's why they called it the Underground Railroad. It was in plain sight, but they had to make sure, that people would follow the routes that were given to them so that they can be, they can get themselves to freedom. And that's, to me, another thing that reminds me of the damn journey that these Haitians had to make. And gosh, like, why does history repeat itself? And America does not hold the mirror to itself to see that it still plays a role in how it treats Black people. Period. Like a pivotal role in how Black people are seen and treated in this country. It's a problem. Yo, it's 10 o'clock. It's past 10 o'clock.
Huge problem.
Dang. It went from my mouth. Look, what Ben wanted? Because I got Slack on silent. What's up? What happened? What we talking about?
I thought I was the only one. I did too. Because last night, for some reason, my alert changed on my phone, and it's not the alert that I selected, and I can't change it back. And then now again, it's just blowing up. So I had to mute them last night. I was like, ooh, I love y'all to death. I mean it, but let me mute y'all, and I just go back and read everything in the digest form because I can't do this. Patreon.com/like it or not, y'all. Patreon.com/the BPD show. We gonna go over to the after party, Rebecca?
We're going over to the after party. Get us out of our jobs. I promise you, you will not be disappointed if we are invested right here with you guys every morning, being able to grow and teach, learn, educate, all of that good stuff. You guys won't be disappointed. Help us get out of our job. Patreon.com/like it or not. Bubba, take us to a break. We're going to the after party.
Real quick,
Love you guys.
I just want to. Real quick, I just want to say, Ben, next time you ask if you can be in the audience, the answer is hell no.
Exactly.
Hello.
Sex. Get up out of here.
Thank you, David. Hey, man, again, we appreciate y'all so much for tuning in today. Patreon.com/like it or not, or Patreon.com/BPD. If you are not a patron already, man, if you are, head on over to the after party. If you are not, head on over to the Pascal and check your stuff. And you want me to
take my dog away? It's way too hard to stay composed. Fight to see the light of day, all this blood on my clothes. I was tired every day, green light, it's time to go. I don't wanna live life fast or die too young. Die too young. 100 miles per hour, I might crash cause a good die young. Yeah, good die young. Push it to the limit, I can't go no more. Red light, no way, I'm coming back home. Long dirt road all on my own. I'ma be the greatest, write my name in the stone. Write my name in the stone.
David is savage, y'all. Y'all don't understand. That's a sweetheart. Good morning, sister. Right show for you. Good morning, y'all.
Back home. Where I left because I know my people needed me. Diamond in the rough, I don't know what it is they see in me. Go down as a legend in my city cause we beat the streets. Trying to spread the wealth around the block, no I can't keep from me. Told me I should leave. I see the bigger picture and it's way bigger than me. Can't be living like a king, but my people need to eat.
Infinite content. Good morning, sir.
And I put that on me. I don't wanna live life fast or die too young. Or die too young. 100 miles per hour, my crash is good die young. But here I come. Push it to the limit, I can't go no more. Red light, no way, I'm coming back home. Long dirt road, all on my own. I'ma be the greatest, write my name in the stone. Write my name in the stone. Yeah, I'm coming back home. Yeah, I'm coming back home. Write my name in the stone. Cause I'm coming back home. I'm coming back home. I'm coming back home. I'm coming back home.
Rebecca, hell yes.
I'm coming back home. I'm coming back home. Yeah, I'm coming back. Push it to the limit, I can't go no more.
Industrial
Red light, no way, I'm coming back home.
And shout out to his son. Happy birthday, son. His youngest son turned 4 years old today. Happy birthday to you. Make sure y'all that if you've not already, patreon.com/like it or not, patreon.com/like it or not, or patreon.com/